Before we begin today's story, take a moment to subscribe if you enjoy emotionally driven stories that linger long after the video ends. These are the kinds of stories that aren't loud or rushed, they quietly settle into your heart, sometimes leaving a gentle ache you can't quite name. And if you stay until the end, you may find yourself thinking about this one longer than you expected, maybe even revisiting your own quiet moments of wondering. Emma and Jake had been together for 6 years, sharing a quiet life in their cozy Portland apartment on the 3rd floor of an old brick building that always smelled faintly of coffee and rain. Their relationship wasn't broken. It wasn't dramatic or filled with grand fights and makeups. It was comfortable, familiar, like a well-worn sweater you reach for without thinking. And sometimes comfort feels dangerously close to distance, like two people living side by side but not quite touching the way they once did. On a rainy Friday evening, as soft raindrops tapped against the fogged windows and the city lights blurred into soft golden halos outside, Emma stood by the kitchen counter, slowly chopping vegetables for a simple stir-fry. She paused, knife hovering, watching the droplets race down the glass. Something restless stirred inside her, a quiet itch she couldn't scratch, a sense that life had become too predictable, too safe. "What if we invited another couple over for dinner?" she asked suddenly, her voice light but edged with something unspoken. Jake looked up from the couch where he was scrolling through his phone, eyebrows lifting in mild surprise. They weren't exactly the spontaneous type. Their routines were comforting in their sameness: work, dinner together, a show on the TV, sleep. Safe, steady, predictable. "Tonight?" he asked cautiously, setting his phone aside. Emma turned, wiping her hands on a dish towel, and smiled, a small, almost shy smile. "Why not? It could be fun. Shake things up a little." There was something in her eyes, a spark Jake hadn't seen in quite a while, bright and alive. It made his chest tighten in a way that was equal parts curiosity and unease. He hesitated, unsure what exactly she was chasing, but the idea intrigued him too, just a little. After a beat, he nodded. "Okay, let's do it." An hour later, the doorbell rang. When Emma opened the door, Lisa and Mark stepped in with effortless warmth, shaking rain from their coats and filling the small entryway with the scent of wet wool and something faintly citrusy, Lisa's perfume, perhaps. Their laughter arrived before they did, bright and easy, carrying a kind of energy that felt new, refreshing, almost electric against the apartment's usual hush. Introductions were easy, natural. Wine glasses clinked softly against each other. Small jokes bounced across the wooden dining table like sparks. At first, it was just dinner, just conversation, stories about work, weekend plans, the ridiculous price of rent in the city. But slowly, something shifted, subtle as the turn of a tide. Mark told stories about reckless childhood adventures, climbing abandoned water towers at dusk, sneaking into old theaters, his voice animated, hands gesturing wide, eyes bright with memory. Lisa spoke more quietly about dreams she had quietly set aside years ago. A trip to Iceland to see the northern lights, a pottery class she still thought about taking, risk she wished she'd taken sooner instead of playing it safe. Emma found herself leaning in, listening more closely than she expected, drawn to the way Lisa's words carried a gentle longing that mirrored something inside her own chest. Across the table, Jake laughed at something Lisa said, a dry, self-deprecating comment about her terrible sense of direction, and for just a second too long, his eyes lingered on her smile, the way it lit up her whole face. Emma felt it, a subtle flicker in her chest, not quite pain, not quite anger. She brushed it off. It was nothing, just friendly conversation, just the wine warming everyone's edges. But as the evening stretched on, the atmosphere grew softer, warmer, more intimate. The laughter became quieter, more meaningful. Casual touches, a hand brushing an arm while reaching for the wine bottle, fingers lingering a heartbeat longer than necessary, felt strangely charged, alive with possibility. Emma hadn't expected that, and neither had Jake. The room seemed smaller, the air thicker. When Emma excused herself to refill the glasses in the kitchen, she paused for a long moment, leaning against the counter, studying her own reflection in the dark window. Why did the room feel different? Why did her pulse feel quicker, her skin more aware? She took a slow breath and returned. When she stepped back into the living room, she saw Jake and Lisa standing by the window, looking out at the rain-slicked street below. They weren't doing anything inappropriate, just talking softly, heads close, but their closeness felt undeniable, natural, magnetic. And for the first time that night, Emma felt something sharp and unfamiliar, a mix of jealousy, confusion, and something even more unsettling, excitement. The evening continued, now layered with unspoken awareness. Every shared glance carried weight. Every laugh lingered a little longer. By the time dessert was served, simple chocolate mousse Emma had whipped up earlier. All four of them felt it. The quiet realization that this was no longer just a dinner. Something had shifted, fragile and unspoken, and none of them knew quite what to do with it. When Lisa and Mark finally left, hugs at the door, promises to do it again soon, the apartment fell silent again. Too silent. Emma locked the door slowly, her hand lingering on the handle as if she half expected the night to rush back in. Jake stood a few steps behind her, running a hand through his hair, looking slightly dazed. "Did that feel different to you?" Emma finally asked, her voice careful, almost a whisper. Jake hesitated, then gave a small, uneasy laugh. "Different how?" She turned toward him, searching his expression in the dim hallway light. "I don't know. Just charged. Like the air was humming." He nodded slowly. "It was just a dinner," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew they weren't entirely true. That night, sleep didn't come easily for either of them. Emma lay awake on her side of the bed, replaying small moments, Mark's easy smile when she spoke about her frustrations at work, the way he had asked thoughtful follow-up questions instead of giving distracted nods, how he had really listened, like she mattered in that exact moment. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt so seen, so interesting. On the other side of the bed, Jake stared at the ceiling, shadows playing across it from passing car lights. He recalled Lisa's laughter, soft, bright, effortless. The way she leaned closer when he spoke, as if genuinely interested in his half-joking story about a disastrous camping trip years ago. The brief brush of her hand against his arm that had felt accidental but unforgettable, sending a small jolt through him. Nothing inappropriate had happened. No lines had been crossed. And yet the memories felt electric, humming under his skin. The next few days carried an unusual tension between them, not anger, not suspicion, just awareness. Emma caught Jake smiling at his phone one evening and felt a quick flutter of insecurity before realizing he was just reading a work email. Jake noticed Emma humming softly while cooking dinner, her mind clearly elsewhere, distant in a way that made him wonder what, or who, she was thinking about. By Wednesday, the silence between them felt heavier than the attraction itself. They sat on the couch after dinner, dishes done, TV on low in the background. "We should invite them again," Emma said casually while drying a glass, not quite meeting his eyes. Jake looked up immediately, surprised. "Already?" "It doesn't have to be a big thing," she shrugged, setting the glass down. "Maybe just a game night. Keep it light. Cards or something." He studied her face, trying to read what she was hoping for, closure, clarity, or something else entirely. But curiosity had taken root in him too, quiet and persistent. After a long moment, he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "Let's do it." When Thursday night arrived, the air in the apartment felt charged before the doorbell even rang. Candles flickered on the table, soft music played low. This time the greetings were warmer, easier, familiar, like old friends who had only just met. They played board games at first, laughing over small victories and playful teasing, but the competitive energy only seemed to sharpen the subtle tension already simmering in the room. During a round of cards, glances lingered. Hands brushed while passing pieces across the table. Laughter came easier, but quieter. The night unfolded slowly, deliberately, each moment stretching just a little longer than it needed to. By the time Lisa and Mark left again, later this time, hugs tighter, goodbyes softer, Emma and Jake stood in the doorway, watching the elevator lights descend. Back inside, they didn't speak right away. They cleared the table in silence, the clink of dishes the only sound. Finally, Emma broke it. "Still charged?" Jake set down a stack of plates and looked at her, really looked. "Yeah, still charged." They didn't say much more that night. They went to bed, bodies close but minds still wandering through the evening's small, electric moments. Nothing had happened. No rules had been broken. And yet everything felt different, wider, deeper, more alive. The space between them had grown, not with distance, but with possibility. Curiosity had opened a door they hadn't known was there. And neither of them was quite ready to close it.